It's 9 p.m. in Shenzhen's tech district. Office lights still blaze as thousands of young professionals stare at glowing screens. This isn't overtime, this is normal. Welcome to 996, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. But where did this extreme work culture come from, and why do so many accept it? To understand 996, we must travel back centuries. The concept of eating bitterness, Chinese letter, has deep roots in Chinese culture. It meant enduring hardship for future reward, a virtue praised by Confucian scholars and peasant farmers alike. But this traditional value is about to undergo a radical transformation. China's economic reforms beginning in 1978 created a new kind of hunger. As the country raced to modernize, eating bitterness evolved from agricultural endurance to industrial productivity. Factory workers, then entrepreneurs, embraced long hours as patriotic duty and personal opportunity. The internet boom of the 2000s created perfect conditions for 996's emergence. Tech startups operated with wolf culture, aggressive, competitive, and relentless. Young graduates flooded into Beijing's Zhongyuancun and Shenzhen's tech parks, willing to trade youth for potential wealth. Jack Ma, Alibaba's founder, became 996's most famous advocate. In 2019, he called it a huge blessing for young workers. His reasoning, those willing to eat bitterness in their 20s would reap rewards later. But was this wisdom or corporate exploitation dressed in traditional values? The human cost began to surface. In 2016, a 34-year-old game developer at Tencent collapsed and died after working 72 hours straight. In 2019, a 25-year-old employee at e-commerce giant Pinduoduo died suddenly after midnight. These weren't isolated incidents, they were symptoms. Medical studies revealed alarming patterns: chronic sleep deprivation, skyrocketing rates of depression and anxiety, karoshi, death from overwork, becoming a real threat. The very generation building China's tech future was burning out before reaching middle age. Yet companies defended 996 with cultural arguments. They claimed it reflected Chinese resilience, the hard work ethic that built economic miracles. Bonus structures tied pay directly to hours worked, creating financial pressure to embrace the grind. Resistance began quietly. In 2019, programmers created 996 IQ, a GitHub repository documenting companies practicing 996. The name was chilling. 996 ICU meant, working 996, you'll end up in the intensive care unit. It went viral, attracting over 250,000 stars. The movement exposed a generational divide. Older managers who remembered poverty saw 996 as opportunity. Younger workers, raised in relative prosperity, questioned the trade-off. Was endless work really the only path to success in modern China? Social media became a battleground. Hashtags like "Say No to 996" trended alongside pro-996 messages. Anonymous accounts shared burnout stories, while official media sometimes praised the work ethic. This wasn't just about hours, it was about competing visions of China's future. Legal realities complicated the picture. China's labor law limits work to 8 hours daily and 44 hours weekly, with overtime capped. But enforcement was weak, and many workers signed voluntary overtime agreements. The law existed on paper, but not in practice. International attention grew. Western tech workers expressed shock, while some Silicon Valley executives admitted similar pressures. But 996 stood out for its systematic, culturally justified nature. It wasn't individual ambition, it was institutional expectation. The pandemic added new dimensions. Remote work blurred boundaries further, with always-on expectations. Some companies even intensified monitoring through productivity software. The office came home, and with it, the pressure never clocked out. Cultural critics entered the debate. Some argued 996 distorted eating bitterness, from virtuous endurance to corporate exploitation. Traditional wisdom emphasized balance, the yin and yang, but 996 represented pure yang, constant exertion without restoration. Demographic consequences emerged. Young workers delayed marriage and children, citing impossible schedules. Birth rates in tech hubs dropped alarmingly. The very workforce building China's future was too exhausted to create families of their own. Government responses were mixed. In 2021, authorities declared 996 illegal and began investigating companies. But many workers reported little change, just more carefully worded policies. The culture proved harder to regulate than the schedule. Alternative models emerged. Some Chinese startups experimented with 4-day weeks, finding increased productivity. Others emphasized results over hours. These experiments suggested 996 wasn't just cruel, it might be inefficient. The philosophical question deepened. What is work for? Traditional eating bitterness served family, community, or personal cultivation, but 996 often served shareholder value and corporate growth. Had the means become disconnected from meaningful ends? Worker narratives diversified. Some still embraced 996 as their ticket out of poverty. Others quietly resisted through lying flat, minimal effort movements. Most existed in between, negotiating daily compromises between ambition and well-being. Global comparisons offered perspective. Japan's karoshi phenomenon showed similar patterns, while European models emphasized balance. China's situation was unique in its scale and cultural justification, but not entirely unprecedented. The innovation argument faced scrutiny. Did 996 actually produce better technology? Some evidence suggested burnout reduced creativity. The most groundbreaking ideas often came from rested minds, not exhausted ones. Family structures transformed. Grandparents raised children while parents worked. Weekends became logistical nightmares rather than relaxation. The traditional Chinese family, once centered around shared meals, now coordinated through scheduling apps. Mental health professionals reported epidemic levels of anxiety. 996 wasn't just a schedule, it was a mindset of constant availability. The smartphone meant work followed everywhere, eroding the very concept of personal time. Economic analyses questioned sustainability. If workers had no time to spend money, who drove consumption? If they burned out by 35, what happened to decades of potential productivity? Short-term gains might create long-term problems. The cultural evolution continued. Younger generations reinterpreted eating bitterness to include setting boundaries. Suffering for meaningful goals remained respected, but meaningless overtime lost its virtue. The definition of bitterness itself was changing. Corporate responses evolved. Some tech giants quietly reduced expectations while maintaining public support for hard work. Others created wellness programs, meditation rooms alongside sleeping pods. The contradictions revealed internal debates. The international dimension expanded. As Chinese companies went global, they brought work cultures with them. Employees in Southeast Asia and Africa sometimes faced similar expectations. 996 wasn't just China's issue, it was becoming an export. Historical parallels emerged. Scholar officials in imperial China sometimes worked brutally long hours for examinations. Peasant farmers endured dawn-to-dusk labor, but both had seasonal rhythms and community support largely absent in modern tech life. The spiritual cost became apparent. Traditional Chinese philosophy valued inner cultivation, but 996 left no time for reflection. How could one develop wisdom or character when every waking moment was scheduled for productivity? Worker solidarity faced challenges. Fear of blacklisting kept many silent. The individualistic nature of tech work, often solo coding, made collective action difficult. Resistance remained fragmented, though social media provided new connections. The narrative battle intensified. State media sometimes criticized 996, other times praised dedication. This ambiguity reflected deeper tensions between economic growth and social stability, between corporate power and worker welfare. Personal stories humanized the statistics. We met Li Wei, 28, who hadn't visited his hometown in 3 years, and Zhang Mei, 32, who missed her daughter's first steps during a product launch. These weren't lazy workers, they were devoted professionals paying a price. The future remains uncertain. Some predict 996 will fade as China's economy matures. Others fear it will evolve into more subtle forms of pressure. The core question persists: how much bitterness should modernity require? Perhaps the ultimate lesson is about cultural adaptation. Eating bitterness endured because it was flexible. It meant different things across dynasties. Today's challenge is adapting this ancient concept to serve human flourishing, not just economic output. As office lights finally dim at midnight, we're left with profound questions. Has eating bitterness been betrayed by its modern incarnation, or is 996 simply the latest chapter in an ancient story of struggle and aspiration? The answer may determine not just work schedules, but China's soul.